So you think you've seen my homestead? After years living out here, I realized I film my videos in a certain format because it's kind of the way that I would give someone a tour in person. And today I'm going to show you different perspectives and angles of my homestead that I simply just never even thought of sharing. Starting with this one here, look, here's the back corner of my homestead, the cabin, the water tower, the outhouse. See, this is the fenced area, and that's the dry field where I'm trying to grow. I just planted squash actually, and then this is pasture all the way out to that corner there. So 2.5 acres, and most of it is a large pasture for the horses. From that corner of the property, water drains down this way, and before long I plan to put a large pond here. So the land slopes down this way, and you can see I've already put a pretty substantially sized reservoir out here. The horses love to play in there, and it fills with water when it rains hard, and it helps my land to absorb and hold water. And then just on the other side of it, here's that dry field where I've slowly put down manure and planted seeds, and I've never watered it. There's thousands of little sprouts down there, and we'll see what pops up over this winter. If you know anything about my homestead, you probably know that this is frugal off-grid, and I came out here with next to nothing, and I've just slowly pieced things together as I've gone. And these corner posts are the way that I could afford to do them at the time, and they're about 2 feet deep in concrete. Even the corners are in concrete, and that'll hold up pretty good. And eventually I'd like to put posts around the entire perimeter every 10 feet, but pour concrete and put metal foundations in the bottom so that the wood is above ground, and build the fence that way eventually. So we started out in that corner, and we've walked this way. Eventually I'd like to partition the pasture off into a few different areas so I can block the horses off, because they'll just wipe out an area pretty quickly. If I can block it off and start to grow alfalfa or other hay or feed out here and rotate them every 4 months, then I might be able to offset the cost of feed. So we were in that corner, and there's this corner, and you can see the horses like to walk down along the fence line. I'm pretty sure you guys have never seen this angle before. That's the front gate. And there's another gate when you come up the driveway. So that's got an automatic gate. I can just hit a button, it'll open. And then you can see the horses like to stand there. And oh, here's another perspective. So here's the second gate that goes into the homestead. And all of this is pasture out here. So that's a solar powered gate. There's a camera at the gate there that's solar powered. The entire driveway is carved out so it will not flood. You can see water drains off the sides of it. And in fact, this water actually makes its way down all the way to the pond that's near the cabin. So you can see the dogs inside the inner gate. That's where the homestead is, and then the pasture is out here. You can see Sage right there, right? So he's out on pasture. And then look at Ginger. She's technically inside the homestead. And I did that so that I've got a gate there. I can walk into the round pen and then walk out onto the pasture. And that's pretty convenient. Hey, buddy. This is Sage. Hey, buddy. I don't think I've ever really spent time out here on the pasture. Here comes Ginger. Hi, honey. So come around here and you can see how there's a 10-foot gate there that opens to the round pen and then back into the stables. That way I could back the trailer into there if I ever needed to, and then it's fenced off. And you can see all the spots where the horses like to stand and dump manure, and that'll help the pasture eventually. So this is the fourth corner of my property. And you can see where I started to fence in the homestead over here as well. And this is the back corner of the stables. Now that my foot's feeling better, hopefully I can hurry and close in the rest of the stables. And you can see I've started to build a rain harvesting system over here. From this angle, you can see the water tower, the geothermal greenhouse. This is my agricultural shed, and that's a 3,600 gallon cistern. So underground there is a lot of water storage, and it harvests water from that surface, and then when I haul water in, I usually dump it into that cistern. And I'll park the trailer here or whatnot, and that's kind of my scrap yard, and there's a bunch of trash there that needs to be hauled off soon. But I prefer to just have, one area that has stuff, and if you can tell, the rest of the homestead is pretty clean and organized. These guys, I harvest the seeds from these and throw them around the homestead, around fences and whatnot, and they've started to pop up. So those are nice, you don't have to water them. There's stapes on the other side of the water tower. Yeah, so here's this corner. I don't think I've ever shown this angle of the homestead. There's a trough in here, and I can just turn that on and it'll fill up until it hits that float valve, and then it'll shut off. And so that's about 25 gallons, and that's about what the horses go through every day. And then this is the gate that leads into the round pen. This is the corner where I plan to put my barn eventually. So I want to be able to store about a year's supply of hay, and then I also want to build myself kind of a mechanic shop where I can work on vehicles. This is a closer look at the scrap yard. Once a year I just go through here and get rid of stuff if I'm not going to use it, and 2 or 3 times a year I just haul out trash to the dump. So the cisterns here, I built the cisterns and the pond. I just used old billboard liners. You see, they deteriorate in the sun, but everything below ground stays perfect for probably a decade at least. And it cost me $200 to build, about 12,000 gallons of storage. And it looks like a mess, kind of, but I'll easily be able to upgrade it when I'm ready to and just spray everything in concrete, and it'll last the rest of my life. Here's a closer look at the geothermal. I built a lot of this out of scrap material and the cheapest plastic I could get. And eventually I'll have to replace it with some real solid, framing like the cabin. But then I'll never have to do it again. Same with the base of the water tower. This concrete slab is really beneficial. And eventually I'll probably just cover the whole side of this in concrete and drop some footings in the ground and strap it to it. Here's stapes. So the wind is pretty rough and kind of blew down the fencing here that's just out of pallets. Eventually I'll just do those posts every 10 feet and build a real nice fence. And this is the garden. It might look trashy, but it's just cardboard and stuff that'll break down into compost. And that's what these are, just big composting bins. So there's the back side of the chicken coop where I can grab eggs, and the original greenhouse, and then the geothermal. You see the top tank here. This was the original trailer I brought out here. I got it for like $400, and it just couldn't hold much. And so eventually I turned it into this upper tank, and I did the same thing, the billboard liner, to make a water tank. And then there's another maybe 600-gallon tank down below for the fish. There's the fish. People like to make guesses about this little tent here, but they're wrong. I just start seeds in here and I actually haven't even used it in quite some time. I have a gym back here. I plan to build a nicer enclosed gym, but this has done the trick. And this is just kind of a agriculture area where I store feed and stuff. Helga, no. Helga, no. Eat ears. So I've got these big drums and I just put feed down in them. I have water containers for the pigs, and these can be watered from the water tower or from, well, the cisterns, any way that I want to move water around. They like to just make a little pond of their own to roll in the mud here. So now that I've built myself a nice cabin, I can come back here and upgrade all of the agricultural sheds and shelters and whatnot. But this is just a closer look at where the pigs are right now. And then there's this other side here, so I can separate them if necessary. This all needs cleaned out really bad. Lots of manure built up in here. I broke my foot about a month and a half ago, and so I'm a little bit behind on some of these things, but here's a completely separate shelter. Until I complete the barn, I just drop hay like this and then cover it so it doesn't get wet, and it'll stay good. I've never had any of it go bad, and I've got another one over here now. I took a large propane tank of sorts and cut it up to make a few different fire pits. These are my barbecuer and smoker. Here's the truck that I'm working on right now, and just this little garage area. And I'm going to grab the wheelbarrow so we can go feed the horses. The shop here has a harvesting surface area, another cistern under there, and if that was to ever overflow, it would drain across the way here, and then that water would head down the way to the pond. So I just feed the horses as much as they want, and I'll just throw a wheelbarrow like this in there once or twice a day. Here's a closer look at the pond area. You can see a lot of stuff grows here because a lot of water is absorbed. It hasn't rained much, so there's only a couple thousand gallons in there right now, but I'm hopeful that we'll get it filled up before the end of monsoon season. It stays full year round if I don't drain it, but I did use a lot of water to do the 20 footings for the cabin. Here's a look at the pergola. That'll be an outdoor kitchen eventually, and I'll clean all this construction area up around the cabin pretty soon and do some landscaping. There's a large ditch down the back here of the cabin that I'll make even larger with time, and you can see stuff grows along it. Solar panels on the south side of the cabin, and there's air conditioning up there in my bedroom, more solar panels on the roof. There's some extra glass for windows, another air conditioning unit. Those are mini splits, building materials, construction, and so on. Building the cabin was a lot of construction, you know, and so I've got some concrete here. Soon that'll be gone, and I'll clean up all of these building materials and start to landscape the area around the cabin. And you know, then I can continue to clean up all the areas around the homestead and improve and continue to make it nicer. This is the lowest point on my property, and so I started to dig what's considered a recharge pit. And so maybe 600 gallons, maybe 400 to 600 gallons would sit in there and soak into the earth, and I'll dig it deeper as I can when I have time. There's just so much to do, but it's a good way to just absorb more water into your land. It's a bit of a mess in the shop here. I've been building this engine for a while now, and once that's complete though, I'll be able to clean it up in here again. I've almost got everything, all the parts, so I'll be able to finish this soon. And here's, if you haven't seen it, here's a look at that underneath. What are you doing, buddy?